What's going on, guys? My name is MrHurriicane, and this is the recap video for the UTSA Dynasty. Earlier this week, I uploaded the video, the final episode of the series, the AutoZone Liberty Bowl between UTSA and Army, and that game was a very fun way to end the series as we ended up winning our first bowl game ever in our third opportunity against the Army's option offense. And I think the game was really fun towards the end when I actually got Evan Newton some playing time when he scored a touchdown, and then Hancock was finding Randy Jones. It was an enjoyable game. Banks goes for 100 in it, and you can see the receiving stats here. Randy Jones lights it up in the final two games with 4 touchdowns in the last 2. But this video is to show you guys the recap and to see stats and just how everything finished off in the series, which was a very fun series. My first big series I've done on an NCAA football game. And so, let's start by looking at the season stats for the UTSA Roadrunners. We'll also get into career stats and the team records, as when this series began, it was the first ever season for UTSA in the FBS. So they spent 1 year in the FCS, immediately bumped up to FBS status, and that's where I took over. So this year, Eric Hancock, 2,800 yards, 28 touchdowns to 16 interceptions, 200 yards a game, 68% completion percentage, and sacked 42 times. Offensive line was really spotty at times, and Banks goes for 1,005 yards, so that makes it back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. Danny Moss off the bench. Danny Moss, 105 carries for 581 and 8 touchdowns. I have vultures all over the place in my series, it seems. It's already happening in the Minnesota Dynasty. And then VT, the rookie, or the freshman rather, I'm in the NFL mindset now. 49 carries, 270, and 3 scores. And a handful of carries for everybody else. Not a whole lot there. Let's go to receiving. Darren Rose leads the way, the slot machine. 53 catches, 730 yards, and 9 scores. And Stevens really came on. I didn't get the receiving tight end that I really wanted. Every time, like I had one on my team, I forget his name right now, but he ended up transferring to Houston after his redshirt season, so I never got to use him. And then every time I tried to get a receiving tight end, they just ended up not coming here. So Stevens was the man. 6 touchdowns, a pretty good year for him. Whitaker had 7 touchdowns, 41 catches, 657 yards. And Randy Jones worked the slot and the outside at times for 33, 566, and 4 scores. And here are the rest. Not a lot for everybody else. A little bit here and there. And let's go to the defense. Dallas Johnson leads in tackles. He was flying around the field. And then Dominic Carter, which was, if I had to choose guys, honestly, the MVP of this series in my eyes was Dominic Carter. He was not even the guy who I wanted at middle linebacker. You guys remember Fred Arnold if you've been following this series. I had him as a soft commit. He ended up going to Colorado, and so I scored Dominic Carter. And I don't care if that number up in the right-hand corner is a 68 overall. The dude played phenomenal, and it was so much fun watching him make plays and just basically be the face of this defense, and in my opinion, the most valuable player. But a guy who really came on in the 2 years he played was Brandon Ford. He played phenomenal. I remember this rookie class, this recruiting class was so much fun because it was Brandon Ford, Kyle Jones, and Chris Washington. And Washington was supposed to be the star. He was the highest overall rated player. But it was Brandon Ford who played lights out, started right away, played much better than Washington. I ended up replacing Washington with Kyle Jones, who is a middle linebacker. I played him on the outside because he was so good, and Dominic Carter was not losing his spot in the middle. And so I had an extremely impressive linebacker core, I thought, with Jones, Carter, and Ford was only a sophomore, as was Jones. So Mike Butler was one of the seniors as well that I recruited. Early in the series, he had 2 picks in his last year. And A.J. Brown, he came on late in the season, and he's got some awards too. We'll see what those are in a little bit. He was an All-American, it looks like. He had a 4-pick game, and just A.J. Brown took over. He was a nickel corner, and then eventually, after that 4-pick game, he got placed right into the starting role opposite of Kyle Nichols. Jason Holmes was the starter, was very inconsistent in coverage, and Nichols, the 6'3", 178-pound senior, 7 interceptions in his final season. Here are the rest of the numbers. Andrew Ross. Now, he had one game where we were up big. In the 4th quarter, I put him in, and he decided just to go off on the offense. He had like 5 or 6 tackles in the 4th quarter, 2 picks. Dude played out of his absolute mind, and he was so much fun to use for at least 1 year. The 6'7" Canadian from Saskatoon. It was fun. Anthony Allen was one of my top defensive tackles that I recruited, and here are the rest of the guys down the list here. Stewart, he was one of the redshirt guys, or not the redshirt, junior college transfer that I got. And now kicking, and I was really happy to get James Benson once this actually updates and shows kicking stats. 17 of 17 in this sophomore season, as he had a really strong leg. He was fun to use. Chris Reed, 49 punts. Nothing impressive here, really. Kick returning, Danny Moss, the All-American, 1 touchdown for 106 yards. And Vince Taylor handled punt returns this year with a below average, really average, of 8 yards a return. So those are the numbers on the season for UTSA. I know you guys want to see the career stats. We're going to get into those, and also the records. So we'll go career stats. I have not looked at any of this yet, so this is all new to me. So here are I think Hancock started about 2 seasons, and Newton started I think they kind of started almost the same number. Let's see, this is 2015 is when he became the starter for a few games. Finished the season with 9 touchdowns, 3 picks. Then had a successful junior season, leading the Runners to a 12-win year. And then Newton had 27 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. I threw a lot of picks with Evan. Hancock was a better deep ball thrower than him. But Newton he had his moments. And I replaced him. But I still wanted to keep him in the series via the Wildcat. I love the way it finished off with him getting those 3 plays in that bowl game. And they were all successful, finished off with a touchdown. He was a big part of the series, and so I wanted to put him in the game. And it happened pretty much, couldn't have happened any better. Anthony Banks. He was one of the guys in my first recruiting class, 2,673 yards. Here are the numbers throughout the years. He was a fun player to use. Evan Newton had 6 rushing touchdowns. Danny Moss almost amassed 1,000 yards as a second running back the entire way through. Vince Taylor only had 1 year. Richie Battle, he was a fun fullback for a few years. Can't remember if he was redshirted at all. Was he? No, he was not. Let's go receiving. Tim Whitaker, 1,758 yards on 113 catches. He got playing time in his freshman year and then was a starter from there on out after the graduation of Cam Jones and Brandon Freeman. Wish I could see their stats, but I'll be able to see the record book if any of their numbers still stand. Darren Rose had 13 touchdowns. And now defense. The leading tackler, actually, is Jason Holmes. That's actually really surprising to me. I thought it would be Dominic Carter. But Carter had 5 picks, 5 sacks. Let's see his numbers. He was so much fun. He played a little bit in his freshman year. I did not redshirt him. And he didn't get any sacks in his final season, his senior year. But he did get 2 interceptions. He forced a fumble, 4 pass deflections, 2 touchdowns. That's my MVP right there. He was my favorite player in this series, I'd have to say. He just made so many plays. He was an intimidating middle linebacker. He was just fun. Here are the numbers for everybody else. How many picks? Nichols had 20. And he was not redshirted either. No interceptions his freshman year, but he turned it on the rest of the way. 5, 8, 7. He even had a sack 1 year. I don't even remember that. But yes, Nichols was the man. He was fun. 10 picks for Butler, 9 for A.J. Brown, and only 1 year of playing time. He got redshirted, so the Bednarik Award and the Thorpe Award, as well as All-American honors. A.J. Brown, he was a playmaker. Ford had 4 interceptions. Chris Washington ended up getting 2. But he was so disappointing his first year, and then I took him out as a starter. Pretty much identical stats, other than these assists. As a kicker, Benson was 30 of 33, along of 54. And punting, here's Chris Reed, who punted for 2 years for me, almost 100 punts. Returning, Danny Moss, 3 return touchdowns. He was one of the best players I had off the bench. He was the 12th man for us. He was great. And he was a vulture, too. One hell of a vulture. Punt returns, Vince Taylor. Not much else. Let's look at the records. So, passing touchdowns in a career, Eric Hancock with 37. In a game, he had 5. In a season, 28. Eric Souza still leads in yards for a career, which he started, I believe, for me 2 full seasons, I want to say. And that's his only record that stands, as yards in a game was 348, in a season 2809. Running, or no, receiving, I guess. Okay, I guess we're skipping rushing for now. Tim Whitaker, 19 touchdowns in his career. Jeremiah Moeller with 2 touchdowns in a game. That was the most I ever had. Nobody ever had 3. He was the tight end I started out with in this series. In the season, 9 touchdowns. Not very many. Yards in a career, 1758. Because I had Cam Jones and Freeman, I think, for 2 years. I can't remember exactly. So nobody ever played like 4 years as a receiver for me. In a season, 773. In a career, catching 113 receptions. In a game was 9. Receptions in a season was 53 for Darren Rose. Defense. Intos in a career, Kyle Nichols with 20 in a game. A.J. Brown with 4 in a season. Adefemi Adiki with 11. Sacks in a career was Richard Burge. And these records were never broken for us. Rushing, here we go, finally. In a career, it was Anthony Banks with 13 in a game, though. Danny Moss vulturing 3 away. I think that was a game where Banks was hurt and left the game. In a season, Danny Moss still leads as the number 2 running back. Vulture. Anthony Banks has the most career rushing yards in a game and a season. You look at the NCAA Individual Game Awards, and I think all these awards are true because longest punt return only 87 yards and longest run only 83. You can see these ones that I hold: a 108-yard return with Danny Moss, 107 with Alondre Thorne. I don't even remember that play. And now you see, this was the coach I created, Eric Taylor, who was based on the coach from the Friday Night Lights TV series. And his career record was 32-32. And the series began with 2 3-9 seasons, so that's right away 6-18. But from there, we got our team ready. We ended up making it 32-32, 64 games in this series. A little bit less than I would have hoped, but it was a very fun series either way. And now we can look at, let's look at some overalls and stuff. Now here was the final roster, and coming up I will have a video showing you guys the team builders that are made for this. I created the one for the PS3, and for some reason EA didn't make it so that I can just make one team builder available on the 360 and PlayStation 3. So someone that one of my Twitter followers and subscribers was nice enough to make a version of my PS3 UTSA team builder on the Xbox 360. So I'm going to have that video out soon, and you guys can download this roster right here exactly. I put in all the ratings. I didn't put in like pass blocking for Eric Hancock. I did all the key ratings that matter for overall. And if you guys wanted to on NCAA 14, you can upload those or download them and put them on NCAA 14. And ends up making your own, you can play them in your own dynasty if you wanted to, or just have that team. It was it's going to be one of my best series, I know. One of the series I'm going to really enjoy looking back on. And so I want to have team builders of this exact roster for anybody that wanted to play with them or anything. And now the view of the NCAA. And Ohio State is number 1, Florida State is number 2. And obviously, this was the first year that I cracked the top 25 of the UTSA with this 8-game win streak we went on. And they're number 20 as we close the series out. I got them to a 3-star prestige. So, kind of a middle-of-the-road team right now. One of the, obviously, the number 1 Conference USA team after winning the championship and having a very successful last year. Would have loved to see what would have happened with a couple more seasons. And now here is the Heisman winners, as I never had anybody in the race. David Mixon wins it as a halfback for Georgia. Jameis Winston, who we all know, Florida State's quarterback here, he had a very good freshman. I think that was his first game, it had to have been. And so he was close in here, so hopefully maybe this will happen in real life. We'll see if he remains this impressive. And here is first team All-Americans in the NCAA. Neil Burcham, SMU quarterback. We played against them a couple times. Anybody else that I recognize? Sean Bailey had just huge numbers. I remember I take notes before all the games and I write down some key stats and things I want to mention in the commentary. And Sean Bailey's numbers, it was like He caught like 90% of the passes for that team. He was the offense. A.J. Brown, first team All-American. There we go. The only one. Second team All-American. Do we have anybody here? I'm not sure if we will. Not even Nichols? Wow. And A.J. Brown ends up being a freshman All-American, which he was going to be by default by being a first teamer. And now all conference awards. And wow. Not even Darren Rose. Well, we did have Sean Bailey and Keontae Griffin. Both those guys lit it up on the stat sheet, so I guess there was no room for Darren Rose. But Mike Herring is an all-conference Conference USA left tackle, as well as Josh Beach, my bookend tackles. Kelvin Thomas is a defensive tackle. Dominic Carter. There we go. A.J. Brown. Where is Nichols? Where's the love for Kyle Nichols? Dallas Johnson, James Benson, Chris Reed. We dominate special teams with Danny Moss as well. And then second team all-conference. We have two more offensive linemen in Javon Morris and Anthony Tatum. Then Patrick Coley. So all five of our offensive linemen were either first or second team all-conference. Anthony Allen, one of our highest rated players, was second team all-conference. Brandon Ford, Kyle Nichols, and Mike Butler. And now the award winners. Maxwell goes to Adam Hopkins, quarterback from USC. Walter Camp, David Mixon, halfback from Georgia. Bednarik, which is A.J. Brown, 29 tackles, 9 interceptions. What a year for A.J. Brown. And he only really came on in half the season. Nagurski, he's 7th. Walker goes to David Mixon. What were his numbers, by the way? What do those look like? 2,000 yards, 21 touchdowns in a 12-game season. Well, probably 14 with a conference championship and a bowl game. But Belentikov, the wide receiver award. Sean Bailey, Keontae Griffin. 104 catches here, 130 here. These guys just put up big-time numbers. Mackey, Kurt Freitag from Alabama wins that one. Outland award is James Ryan from Alabama. And their team was stacked, too. Oh my goodness, they graduated so many players, and then they had so many guys in that last draft, and they still had so many guys in the 90 overalls. Justin Good is the best linebacker. Thorpe goes to A.J. Brown. Dominique Payne wins the Groza Award. And the Ray Guy goes to Sam Jackson, not the actor, the punter. Best returner, Barry Sanders Jr. from Stanford. He's still in here. And here are the bowl results as we will finish up this recap video. USC all over Central Michigan. A lopsided matchup I thought, but it was 8-5 versus 7-7. Let's see, let's go to those BCS bowls. I'll try to go slow here so you guys can see what all happened. But I want to see who wins that national title game. Auburn and Iowa. Chris the Dog, I'm sorry. Iowa won. Georgia stomps Michigan 35-3. Arkansas gets stomped by Nebraska 28-3. So Big Ten and USC or the SEC go back at it and dominate one another. Southern Miss loses to Illinois. Southern Miss was the team that we lost to in the conference championship. So if we had lost that game, we probably would have played Illinois. Wisconsin loses to Alabama in the Rose Bowl. I took away the qualifiers from the conferences. I wasn't a big fan of those, by the way. Oregon knocks off Clemson 30-13. And Cincinnati beats Oklahoma in the Discover Orange Bowl 11-2, 10-3. Nice job. Texas over Florida in the Fiesta Bowl 11-2, 9-4. I don't know why I'm saying the records, but West Virginia knocks off LSU. A big upset here, 24-17 in the Cotton Bowl. Wow, LSU goes down. What happened in this game? Wow, their quarterback threw for, that's terrible, 29% completion percentage. Oh my goodness. In the Compass Bowl, exciting game, 55-35. Go Daddy Bowl. In the national championship, Florida State knocks off Ohio State 33-27 as Jameis Winston is going to lead Florida State. Actually, he got hurt and they had to put in the backup who played decently. And they won over Ohio State as their quarterback couldn't complete any passes either. Alright guys, that is going to do it for the UTSA Dynasty. Thank you so much for supporting this series. It was extremely fun to recruit this team and to build a team that was just starting out in the FBS. it was so enjoyable to recruit all these players and have them become such huge personalities on the team. And I hope I can do the same with the Minnesota Dynasty and recruit my own talent and end up making the team kind of my own. It felt like my own in this series once I got that first recruiting class in and I started graduating some of the players that were on the initial team. And so it was a lot of fun, guys. The UTSA Dynasty was a great series. I really enjoyed producing it, and I can't wait to hopefully do some great things in the Minnesota Dynasty and NCAA 14. But thanks for watching, guys, and supporting the UTSA Dynasty, and I'll see you guys later.